Get out of first class, you filthy old scammer! Flight attendant Vivian Hayes drove her fist hard into the face of David Kelly, a frail 71-year-old black man. The punch landed with a sickening thud, snapping his head to the side and sending his wire-rimmed glasses, old, taped together at the arm, flying across the cabin floor. Blood trickled from a split on his dark cheekbone, blooming like a cruel flower against his weathered skin. David's body slumped slightly in seat 1A, but he didn't cry out. He just sat there, stunned, his hands trembling faintly in his lap. "That's what disgusting thieves like you deserve," Vivian snarled, her sharp-featured blonde face twisted in contempt. She snatched his boarding pass from his weak grip and shredded it viciously into tiny pieces, letting them flutter down onto his worn cardigan like worthless confetti. "Animals like you don't belong up here with decent people. Get on your knees, you pathetic old fraud. Crawl back to economy where trash like you fits in, and pick up your fake garbage while you're at it." The first-class cabin fell deathly silent. 30 passengers stared in shock, phones already out and recording as David, dressed in a simple, threadbare cardigan, faded slacks, and scuffed shoes that screamed quiet humility rather than deceit, remained frozen. A red welt swelled on his cheek, making him look even more vulnerable, like a grandfather who'd wandered into the wrong place by mistake. Someone in the back whispered, "About time someone dealt with these sneaky types properly." But looking at David, his kind eyes, and his unassuming posture, it was hard not to feel a pang of wrongness. This gentle old man, with his slow movements and polite demeanor, didn't deserve this brutality. He looked like someone's beloved elder, not a criminal. In 10 minutes, this vicious flight attendant would learn she had just assaulted the man who founded and owned the entire airline, the one whose quiet vision had built everything around her. Have you ever seen blind prejudice shatter someone's world in the most humiliating, irreversible way possible? 3:47 p.m., Gate 9, Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, departure in 28 minutes. David remained seated, his cheek throbbing with pain, the metallic taste of blood in his mouth. He didn't kneel, didn't scramble for the scattered shreds of paper. The vivid red mark on his dark skin only seemed to ignite Vivian's fury further. "Ha! Did you hear me, you worthless old bum?" she shrieked, her voice echoing through the cabin like a whip crack. "I said get on your knees and clean up your lying mess, you disgusting parasite. People like you, sneaky, entitled leeches, ruin everything for real passengers who actually earn their place." She lunged forward, grabbing his shoulders with manicured nails digging into his thin cardigan, trying to force the elderly man down to the floor. When David instinctively resisted, holding his ground with quiet dignity, Vivian shoved him back hard against the leather seat, his head bouncing off the headrest. "You're just making this worse, you filthy intruder," she hissed, jabbing a finger into his chest so hard it left a bruise. "Criminals like you, old broke, and shameless, always think you can sneak in and steal from better people. You're nothing but a pathetic beggar in disguise." The word criminal poisoned the air, hanging heavy like smoke. "Security! We have a violent, non-compliant fraud here," Vivian bellowed, her eyes wild with self-righteous rage. The commotion pulled every gaze in first class. Passenger Alicia Thorne, a polished lifestyle influencer with flawless makeup and a designer handbag, whipped out her phone from seat 2B and started live streaming, angling for the perfect shot of the drama. "Oh my gosh, everyone," she whispered dramatically into the camera, her voice laced with faux outrage. "There's a total scammer in first class right now, trying to steal a premium seat. The attendant is handling it like a boss. Zero tolerance for this kind of nonsense." Her viewer count ticked up to 1,200 in seconds, comments pouring in like venom. Good for him. These old cheats always cause delays. Finally, someone standing up to the frauds. Why do they let people like him even board? She should have hit him harder. Teach him a lesson. Manager Jeff Wilson hustled in from the jet bridge, slightly winded, his 45-year-old frame carrying the smug authority of someone who'd climbed the ranks by never questioning the obvious. He didn't spare David a glance at first, focusing on Vivian's uniform as if it were a shield of truth. "What's going on here?" he demanded. "Blatant seat theft, Jeff." Vivian spat, gesturing at David like he was vermin. This old fool refused to show real ID, got aggressive when I called him out. I look at him, ratty clothes, no class. Does he scream first class to you? I had to defend myself in the cabin. Jeff finally eyed David, his gaze dripping with disdain. The faded cardigan with a small hole at the elbow, slacks shiny from age, shoes risoled and worn thin. This man looked harmless, almost pitiable, like a retiree on a budget trip, not a threat. But Jeff's bias kicked in. "Sir, show me your boarding pass and photo ID now. No excuses." "She tore it up," David murmured softly, his voice steady but laced with quiet pain, not anger. He didn't deserve this. His eyes held no malice, just weary patience. Vivian burst into mocking laughter, encouraging chuckles from nearby seats. "Because it was obviously bogus, Jeff. This decrepit old liar thinks he can fool us with his sad act. Pathetic." A businessman in 3A, a suit crisp and watch gleaming, nodded emphatically. "Damn right. These types always play the victim. In my experience, they belong in the back, or off the plane entirely." His companion, clutching a luxury tote, added loudly, "I feel unsafe with him here. Who knows what else he's capable of?" Alicia's live stream surged to 3,500 viewers. She zoomed in on David's swelling cheek, narrating with glee. "You guys, the mark from where she defended herself is huge. This guy's refusing to comply. Total entitlement. Comments are blowing up. Arrest him already. Old people like that are the worst scammers. Ban him for life." Jeff grabbed his radio. "Ground control, this is Flight 2209. Need security at Gate 9 ASAP. Fraud and assault situation in first class." David's phone vibrated softly in his briefcase, and the screen flashing through the leather. Missed calls. 9 Executive Team. He ignored it, sitting with unbroken composure that only highlighted how undeserved this torment was. This wasn't a fighter. This was a man of quiet strength, enduring cruelty he hadn't provoked. Security Officer Marcus Webb arrived swiftly, his burly build blocking the aisle, hand hovering near his taser. 2 airport cops trailed him, badges shining under the cabin lights. The digital board blinked. Departure in 22 minutes. "What's the issue?" one cop, Officer Ramirez, asked sternly. "Clear-cut fraud," Jeff declared. "Refused to vacate. Resisted the attendant. She's got years of experience spotting these lowlifes." Vivian preened, addressing the growing crowd. "Exactly. This senile old crook thought his shabby disguise would work. And I've seen 100 like him. Dirty, dishonest, preying on honest folks. He doesn't deserve to breathe the same air as us." Applause rippled through the seats. Alicia's stream hit 7,000. "The cops are here. This is getting intense. She's calling him out. Love her energy." Pilot Captain Ellis emerged from the cockpit, 55, with a uniform heavy with stripes and a no-nonsense glare. He assessed the scene and backed Vivian instantly. "I've flown with her for a decade. If she says he's trouble, he's trouble. Get this intruder out." Jeff's radio crackled. "Jeff, this is Patricia Okafor, Ops VP, reports of an incident on 2209. Status?" "Handled," Jeff replied loudly. "Removing a disruptive fraud per protocol. Premium passengers deserve better." The cops closed in. "Sir, gather your things and come with us," Ramirez ordered. David spoke calmly. "I'd like to show you something first." "No tricks, you sly old fox," Vivian yelled. "He's stalling. Probably has more fakes in that ratty bag." Alicia's viewers topped 10,000, comments vicious. "Drag him out. He's wasting time. Hit him again." 3:52 p.m. departure in 23 minutes. Vivian wasn't done. She grabbed the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for the delay caused by this fraudulent old beggar trying to scam his way into luxury. Law enforcement is resolving it." Shouts of support echoed from economy. "Throw him off." "Hurry up." David's bag lay open slightly, hinting at documents, but chaos drowned it out. Ramirez reached for him. "You're under arrest for trespassing." Patricia's voice, urgent on radio. "Jeff, hold everything. Corporate alert. Social media's exploding." Jeff muted it, but whispers spread. Captain Ellis barked, "My plane! My call! Remove him!" The cabin pulsed with hostility, phones everywhere, passengers jeering. David, frail and bloodied, smiled faintly, a sign of hidden knowledge. "Officer," he said evenly, "before you do this, let me show you one item." "No!" Vivian screeched. "He's dangerous, probably armed." Gasps. Ramirez tensed, but David pulled out a portfolio slowly. Inside, a gold-embossed founder's badge, Davis Airlines, Serial 001. Patricia over radio, now blasting. "That's the founder! David Kelly! CEO! Stop immediately!" Vivian's face drained. Jeff dropped his radio. The cabin froze. The badge gleamed, undeniable. Alicia whispered, "Guys, this is bad." David's quiet voice cut through. "I am David Kelly. I own this airline." The reversal hit like a storm. Vivian staggered back, horror dawning. At the man she'd called a filthy scammer, punched and humiliated, was her boss. Phones captured her collapse. Comments flipped. She assaulted the owner? Fired! This is epic karma. Captain Ellis stammered, "Impossible!" But Patricia arrived, confirming, "It's him. Stand down." David stood, glasses cracked, cheek bruised, but dignity intact. "This wasn't just about me," he said to the cameras. "It's about every passenger treated like this." Vivian crumpled, the weight of her words. "Animal. Parasite. Beggar," echoing back as her undoing. The old man she'd brutalized didn't deserve a single syllable of it. He was a pioneer, a leader in disguise, teaching a lesson in humility she'd never forget. In minutes, suspensions flew. Jeff out, Captain grounded, Vivian removed. The flight delayed, but the airline and those on it would never be the same. For you to understand how the whole drama, hit the subscribe button. Now let me take you back to how it all started. David Kelly stepped onto the jet bridge at Gate 9 in Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, his steps slow and careful. At 71, his knees ached from years of hard work, but he carried himself with a quiet grace. He wore a worn brown cardigan over a plain white shirt, dark slacks that had seen better days, and shoes resoled twice. In his hand was a simple weathered briefcase, no fancy wheels or logos. This was how he always traveled, in disguise, blending in like any other passenger. For 30 years, David had built Davis Airlines from nothing. He started with one small plane and a dream to make flying fair for everyone. Now, it was a big company, but he never forgot his roots. He boarded his own flights like this often, about 200 times, to see things from the passenger side. He wanted to know if his crew treated people right, if the seats felt good, if the service was kind. Today, on Flight 2209 to JFK, he was doing just that. He walked down the aisle, nodding politely to the flight attendants. Vivian caught his eye first. She was in her mid-30s, blonde with sharp features, moving with quick efficiency. Her uniform was neat, her smile bright for the other passengers. But David noticed something in her eyes, a quick judgment, a habit of assuming too much. He had seen it before in staff who got away with small mistakes too often. It turned into bigger problems. David settled into seat 1A, the front row of first class. He had booked it himself, of course. And he placed his briefcase under the seat and folded his hands in his lap. The cabin was filling up, businessmen in suits, families with kids, a young woman setting up her phone for a live stream. The air smelled of fresh coffee and airplane fuel. Vivian turned and saw him. Her smile faded. She walked over, her heels clicking sharply. "Excuse me," she said, but her tone was not kind. "Is this your seat?" David reached into his pocket for his boarding pass. "Yes, ma'am," he replied softly. She didn't wait. Her eyes narrowed at his clothes, his age, his skin. Assumptions rushed in. "This seat is for paying customers," she snapped. "Show me proof." David held out the pass, but Vivian's mind was already made up. She grabbed it, glanced quickly, and decided it didn't fit her idea of who belonged here. Anger built in her chest. How dare this old man think he could sneak in? The cabin hummed with boarding noise, but tension started to rise. David sat still, unaware that in seconds everything would explode. Vivian stood over David, her face red with quick anger. She didn't ask more questions. That was the part that stung David later. No simple check, no calm words. She just acted. "This seat is taken," she said sharply. "You need to move now." David looked up, his dark eyes calm. He reached again for his boarding pass to show her clearly. But Vivian saw his hand move and took it as a threat. In her mind, he was already guilty, a sneaky old man trying to cheat the system. Her hand shot out fast. The punch came like lightning. Her fist hit David's left cheek with a loud smack. His head snapped to the side, pain shooting through his face, his glasses, old wire frames. One arm fixed with tape flew off and slid under the next seat. A red mark bloomed on his dark skin and a small cut opened, blood trickling down. The cabin went quiet. 30 pairs of eyes turned. Phones came out, recording the shock. Vivian didn't stop. She snatched the boarding pass from his loose grip and tore it. Once, twice, into tiny bits. She threw them at him like trash. "People like you don't belong here," she hissed. "Filthy old scammers like you ruin it for everyone. Get on your knees and pick up your fake mess, then crawl back to economy where you fit." David sat there, cheek burning, hands shaking a little. He didn't yell or fight back. He just reached slowly for his glasses on the floor. One lens was cracked now. He held them in his lap, looking at her with sad eyes. He didn't deserve this. A kind old man, quiet and harmless. But Vivian's rage grew. "Did you hear me, you worthless bum?" she yelled. She grabbed his shoulders, nails digging in, trying to push him down. David held firm, not wanting to fall. She shoved harder, slamming him back into the seat. "You're just a pathetic parasite. Criminals like you always make trouble." The word criminal hung heavy. Passengers whispered. One man nodded. "Good for her." But seeing David's gentle face, the blood on his cheek, it felt wrong. This wasn't fair. "Security!" Vivian called. We have a violent fraud here." The live streamer in 3A whispered to her phone. "Guys, this is wild. Attendant just hit this old guy. Comments are going crazy." David tasted blood, but stayed calm. Deep down, hurt, mixed with resolve. He had built this airline for better than this. But now, the storm was just starting. And the silence after the punch lasted only seconds. Then the cabin cracked open with voices. "Finally, someone handling these cheats right," said a man in 2B, his suit sharp and watch shiny. He clapped once, like approving a show. His wife leaned over. "You can tell just by looking. Always the same types causing delays." David sat with his broken glasses, cheeks swelling, blood drying. He looked so small, so undeserving. A grandfather figure, not a threat. But the crowd's words cut deeper than the punch. The young content creator in 3A was already live. "Everyone, drama in first class. This old man tried sneaking in, and the attendant stopped him hard. Viewers at 1,200, keep watching." Her screen filled with comments. "Zero tolerance. Good job. These old frauds deserve it." More joined in. A woman in 4C muttered, "He looks shady. Why dress like that if you're legit?" Laughter rippled. Phones pointed at David, capturing his pain for the world. But not everyone agreed inside. A few shifted uncomfortably, seeing the old man's quiet dignity. He didn't fight or beg. He just waited, eyes down. It tugged at hearts. Shock at the violence, pity for the victim. Vivian stood tall, feeding off the support. "See? Everyone knows you're a liar," she sneered at David. "Pathetic old leech thinking you can steal a seat." David's phone buzzed softly in his briefcase. Calls from his team, but he ignored it. The sting wasn't just physical, it was the betrayal. He had hired people like Vivian to help, not hurt. More passengers chimed in. "Call the cops!" one yelled. "Don't let him delay us!" Applause started, slow but growing. The live stream hit 4,000 viewers. "Hit him again!" Teach the bum a lesson. David felt the weight of eyes judging him by his clothes, his age, his skin. Injustice burned in his chest, but he stayed silent. Speaking now would only fuel the fire. A child in the back asked his mom, "Why did she hit the grandpa?" The mom shushed him. That innocent question hung unspoken for others, too. Was this right? The crowd had chosen, side with power, with the uniform. But deep down, doubt crept in. David's calm face made some wonder. Maybe they were wrong. Tension built as footsteps approached from the jet bridge. Management was coming. The clock ticked. Departure in 20 minutes. The storm grew darker, pulling everyone in. Hearts raced with anger, fear, and a hint of shame. Jeff Wilson rushed in from the jet bridge, radio in hand, face set in a frown. At 45, and he had 18 years in airlines, enough to think he knew every trick. He scanned the scene. Vivian in uniform, upset. David in old clothes, bleeding. Optics screamed troublemaker. "What's the situation?" Jeff asked, voice firm. Vivian pointed at David. "Seat fraud, Jeff. This old sneak refused ID, got combative. I had to protect myself in the cabin." She crossed her arms, playing the hero. Jeff glanced at David. Cardigan with a hole, worn shoes, cracked glasses. He looked harmless, like a tired traveler down on luck. But Jeff's mind jumped to conclusions. "Sir, boarding pass and ID now. No games." "She ripped it up," David said quietly, voice steady despite the pain. No anger, just facts. It made him seem even more innocent, undeserving of the mess. Vivian laughed harshly. "Because it was fake. Look at him, Jeff. Ratty old bum. Does he belong in first class? He's a disgrace." The man in 2B clapped again. "Exactly. These types always lie." His wife nodded. "I don't feel safe." Jeff nodded, bias kicking in. He didn't see the gentle old man. He saw a problem to fix fast. "All right, we're handling this." He grabbed his radio. "Need backup in first class. Disruptive passenger." David sat still, cheek throbbing. Emotions swirled, hurt from the betrayal, sadness for what his airline had become. He had dreamed of fairness, but here was cruelty in action. The live stream surged to 5,500. "Manager's here, taking charge. This old guy's done." Passengers murmured approval. "Good, get him out." But a few frowned, whispering, "That punch was too much. He's just sitting there." Jeff turned to Vivian. You did right. Can't let frauds ruin the flight. Vivian smiled, empowered. Hey, thanks. He's a sneaky parasite, old and broke, preying on us. David's eyes met Jeff's for a second. No plea, just quiet strength. It stirred unease in Jeff, but he pushed it down. Footsteps echoed. More help coming. The cabin buzzed with excitement and tension. Hearts pounded. Anger at the fraud. Pity for the victim. Fear of delay. Departure clock. 18 minutes. The net tightened around David. He knew the truth would come, but the weight hurt. Injustice gripped the air, making everyone feel the weight. Would fairness win, or would assumptions rule? The pilot, Captain Harris, stepped out from the cockpit. At 58, with silver hair and a uniform full of badges, he carried weight. He looked at the mess. Vivian upset, Jeff in charge, David bleeding. "What's this delay?" he barked. Vivian explained fast. "Fraud in 1A, Captain, old guy with fake pass. Resisted, so I handled it." Harris nodded quick. "Vivian's been on my crew 6 years. Trust her judgment." He didn't even speak to David, just dismissed him as trouble. Security Officer Marcus Webb arrived next, big and stern, hand near his belt. 2 airport cops hovered behind, ready. The aisle felt smaller, pressure building. "Problem?" Marcus asked. Jeff pointed. "Seat thief, non-compliant, remove him." Vivian added, he's a violent old crook. Look at his shabby clothes. Pure scam artist." David sat quiet. A phone buzzing again, 11 missed calls from the board. He ignored it, pain mixing with deep sadness. This system he built was failing him, judging by looks alone. It broke his heart. The live stream hit 6,400. "Security's here. Pilot backs the attendant. Old man surrounded." Comments flew. "Arrest him. Delays because of bums like that." Passengers cheered softly. "Finally!" But seeing David's frail form, some felt guilt. He looked so alone, so wronged. An old man, enduring hate he didn't earn. Marcus stepped closer. "Sir, hands visible. We're escorting you off." David didn't move. His cheek hurt, but his spirit held. Emotions rose, anger at the unfairness, hope for the reveal. The cops nodded. "Comply, or it's cuffs." Vivian smirked. "See? The system's got your back. Not frauds like him." Jeff's radio crackled, but he focused on control. The departure, 14 minutes. Ground crew outside, prepped, unaware of the drama. The cabin leaned in, hearts racing with thrill and unease. Injustice choked the air, David trapped, voices against him. Pity swelled for the quiet old man, shock at the pile-on. More phones recorded? The content creator whispered, "This is escalating, guys. He's done." But David waited, knowing truth waited too. The tension peaked, every second heavy. Would the break come, or would the system crush him first? Fear and anticipation mixed, pulling readers deeper into the hurt and hope. David moved slow, his hand going to his briefcase. "Sir, keep hands where I can see them," Marcus warned, tense. The cabin watched, breath held. Vivian sneered. "What's he grabbing, more fakes?" David pulled out one thing. A heavy badge, gold eagle on navy, old and real. A Davis Airlines founder's badge, serial number from before the first flight. Only one existed. He set it on the armrest, quiet. No show, just placed it there. Jeff's radio buzzed. "Jeff, Patricia Okafor here. Security alert at Gate 9. A Tier 1 credential. Founder's badge. Only one in the world." Jeff's face paled. "What alert?" "The scanner picked it up 22 minutes ago. Confirm the passenger." Eyes turned to the badge. Vivian stared, then looked away, doubt creeping in. The live stream whispered, "Bah, guys. Something's shifting." Captain Harris frowned. That can't be. But whispers spread. Passengers leaned in, confusion mixing with shock. David sat still, cheek marked, glasses cracked. He didn't gloat. Emotions hit. Relief starting, but hurt lingering. Years of building. Now this moment of truth. Marcus picked up the badge, examined it. Hey, this looks official. Jeff grabbed his radio. Patricia, describe the holder. David Kelly, 71, black CEO and founder. Travels incognito to check operations. The words hung. Vivian's smug face cracked. No, impossible. The content creator zoomed in. Wait, he owns the airline? Comments flipped. She punched the boss? Oh no, Jeff stammered. But his clothes. That's the point, David said softly, first words in minutes. To see how you treat regular folks. The cabin froze, like time stopped. Hearts pounded with surprise, regret. Pity for David turned to awe. He wasn't a fraud. He was the heart of it all. Vivian stepped back, hands shaking. The system she trusted now turned on her. Captain Harris turned red. We didn't know. But you assumed, David replied, voice kind but firm. Tension broke into whispers. The shock waves hit everyone. The old man they humiliated was their leader. Guilt flooded in, mixing with fear for consequences. Departure clock, 10 minutes. The reveal detonated quiet, but deep. Emotions swirled, justice rising, shame for the crowd. The story turned, pulling toward reckoning. The next minutes cost Davis Airlines dearly. In trust and money, Patricia Okafor rushed in with legal team, face stern. Stand down. That's David Kelly, our founder. Jeff dropped his radio, clattering loud. His authority crumbled. But we thought... You assumed, Patricia snapped. Captain Harris, you're off this flight. Review pending. Harris backed away, silver hair no shield now. I trusted my crew. Jeff next. Suspended on spot. Radio taken in front of all. He stood frozen, humiliated. Marcus stepped back, recalibrating. And the cops nodded to Patricia. Your call now. Vivian stood in the aisle, world crashing. 11 years here, now this. She had punched her boss, destroyed his pass, called him names. In front of witnesses and cameras, 6,400 live viewers. Comments turned vicious. She assaulted the owner? Fire her! David stood slow, picking up his glasses. The cracked lens caught light, throwing a tiny rainbow. He looked at Vivian, not with hate, but steady gaze. She couldn't meet his eyes. The cabin murmured, shock turning to whispers. Passengers who cheered now stared at hands. The man in 2B hid his face. Guilt spread like fire. The live stream hit 41,000. This is insane. He owns everything. David's cheek still hurt, but resolve shone. Emotions peaked. Satisfaction at truth. Sorrow for the pain caused. Patricia addressed the crowd. Apologies for the delay. Mr. Kelly is our CEO. This incident is under investigation. Vivian trembled. I didn't know. But you acted anyway, David said softly. His words cut deep without yelling. Legal team took notes. Jeff and Harris left the plane, heads down. Vivian was told, off duty now. She walked out, tears starting. The woman who felt powerful now felt small. David turned to the cameras. This hurts, but it's a lesson. Hearts ached with mixed feelings. Joy at justice, pity for the fallen, hope for change. The reckoning hit hard, showing how quick judgments destroy. Departure delayed, but the real shift started. The old man's quiet power changed everything. Tension eased into reflection, pulling readers to wonder. What next? The content creator's stream buzzed at 41,000 viewers. and hands shook as she filmed David standing tall despite the bruise. He faced the camera, knowing the world watched. "I want to speak to everyone here and out there." His voice was steady, born from old pains. "What happened today was wrong. But I have power, resources, a team. Most folks who face this don't. They just carry the hurt home, question themselves, maybe never fly again." He turned to Vivian, now at the front, face pale. "I'm not destroying your career, but you'll be accountable. There's a difference. Learn it." Vivian nodded, tears silent, shock mixed with relief. David addressed the cabin. "We're late. Sorry for that." He sat back in 1A. The man in 2B stared at his hands, clap echoing in his mind. Regret filled the air. Patricia organized, Vivian demoted temporarily, Jeff suspended, Harris grounded. Legal handled the rest. Then David's choice stunned. No revenge, just teaching. Emotions swelled, admiration for his grace, warmth in forgiveness. The plane quieted, passengers reflecting. The child from earlier smiled at David. "You're the boss?" David nodded kindly. Boarding finished slow. The live stream captured it all. He's forgiving her? Class act. Comments shifted. Respect. That's leadership. David felt peace amid the ache. He had overcome invisibility, shown dignity needs voice sometimes. Vivian left the plane, mind racing. 2 months demotion ahead, but a chance to return better. The engines hummed. Takeoff loomed. Hearts warmed. From shock to grace, the arc bent toward hope. David closed his eyes, thinking of reforms. The airline would change, because he chose mercy over wrath. The cabin settled as Patricia wrapped up. David's words lingered, touching souls. One passenger approached shyly. "Sir, sorry for not speaking up." David smiled. "It's okay. We all learn." Emotions ran deep. Gratitude for his kindness, inspiration from his strength. Vivian paused at the door, glancing back. David's nod gave her hope amid shame. The choice wasn't easy for David. Anger tempted, but he saw potential in reform. As wheels up, peace spread. The story's warmth healed the earlier hurt, evoking joy in redemption. 2 months passed. Vivian started at the Customer Service Training Center in Atlanta. No uniform wings, just a desk handling bags, complaints, tired families. Demoted by David, she worked 8 hours daily. At first it stung, humiliation fresh. But by week 3, she shone. She listened to an old woman's lost luggage story, fixed it with care. A crying child got a smile and help. And Vivian saw passengers as people, not threats. Week 7, she wrote David. "I protected my assumptions, not the airline. I see now they're different. Thank you for the chance." David read it twice, then approved her return with bias training done. Her first flight back, 2209, Dallas to JFK. First in first class, an elderly black man in cardigan and worn shoes. Vivian smiled real. "Welcome, sir. Help with your bag?" No pass check needed. Trust earned. 3 months post-incident. Complaints down 81%. Elderly satisfaction up 52%. Staff training at 99.4%. Stock rose 19%. The Department of Transportation used Davis protocols in new rules. 4 airlines followed suit. David flew incognito still. But crews greeted all with kindness now. The broken glasses? Worth it for the change. Emotions wrapped. Pride in growth. Joy in justice served gently. Yet the effect spread, touching lives beyond one flight. Word count, 250. Expand. Vivian's letter came handwritten, sincere. David felt warmth. His choice worked. On that return flight, David boarded last. Vivian's eyes met his, grateful. She helped without fuss. Changes showed. Training sessions packed, staff sharing stories. One attendant said, "We assume less now." David's memo shook the industry. Dignity for all or none. Airports buzzed with talk. Passengers felt safer. Seen. A year later, David reflected. Pain led to progress. Hearts filled with hope, inspiration. The Davis effect lived on, proving one man's grace could change many.